Hey Optimancers, we're now talking about our Enchanter build, the Beguiler, for tier 3 and 4, which is levels 11 and up. As I said, with this character I'm doing 20 levels of straight wizard. So these are all wizard levels. We're going to be looking at 9th level spells at level 17. If you didn't watch the last video, at level 10, this character got split enchantment, which doubles the effect of certain spells. So we have largely focused on those spells. And for the last 10 levels here, I'm going to be doing 2 levels at a time. So let's bring this character to level 12. Now, considering how many spells and the spell selections of this character, we obviously need to have as high as an intelligence as possible so we can boost our spell DC as much as we can, because there's so many spells we have that are providing enemy saving throws. The more that fail, the better this character is. So we are going to increase our intelligence again and get it up to 20. So we get access to our 6th level spells. Now I'm going to pick 4 spells here because we're talking about levels 11 and 12. But I do want to separate which spells I would take at which level. So at levels 11, what I'm going to take first off is Contingency. And you can combine that either with your Dimension Door or your Autoluke's Resilient Sphere rather effectively. So when you reach a certain hit point threshold, for example, then the defensive spell will come into effect. I'd be more inclined with this character to do the Autoluke's Resilient Sphere than with other characters, although that uses your concentration. If you are doing something like a Hypnotic Gaze, it would allow you to maintain that Hypnotic Gaze while protecting yourself. But the second spell I'm going to take here, again, is not a spell I would normally take with a wizard, but with an Enchanter wizard, because it's twice as powerful, I now think it's a decent spell for enchanters, and that is Otto's Irresistible Dance, a spell I normally dislike, but again, you make it twice as good, now it's pretty good. So Otto's Irresistible Dance, 30-foot range, concentration, our saving throw DC is now 17. We would normally choose one target we can see within range. That target is stuck dancing, tapping its feet, capering for the duration. Creatures that can't be charmed are immune to the spell. That's the case with a lot of our spells, but we do have other spells we can cast in those cases. A dancing creature must use all its movement to dance without leaving its space, so it can't move, and has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws and attack rolls. So it has disadvantage on attack rolls, and if we target it with anything dexterity save, it has disadvantage. Well, the target is affected by the spell. Other creatures have advantage on attack rolls against it, so it has reduced defense against our allies. As an action, a dancing creature makes a wisdom saving throw to regain control of itself. On a successful save, the spell ends, so it requires its action to make another saving throw. Now, the reason I'm normally not a big fan of this spell, despite the fact that that enemy is automatically going to be affected by this spell, and at best, using their action, get out of it at the end of their next turn, is because the effect itself is pretty good, but not as good as we would expect necessarily from 6th level spells. And being able to avoid one round of saving throw isn't a huge deal when we are talking about levels where we have spells that don't provide saving throws at all. But when we double this, that's pretty effective, because now we can have 2 different creatures be affected by this spell automatically. So that can have a pretty big impact on the combat. So I think for an Enchanter, Otto's Irresistible Dance is a very strong selection at this level. Now at level 12, I think the options are a little more open. I like the idea of Magic Jar for this character because, again, I'm thinking of this character as not a very nice character, and Magic Jar kind of fits within that, and it's an effective spell. And I like the idea of Soul Cage for exactly the same reason. So those are the other 2 spells I'm going to add at this level. And then when I'm doing my preparation slots, so what I'm going to do now is I've got 3 additional preparations. I'm normally not going to prepare a contingency. It's something I'm going to be doing when I'm not adventuring. So that means I can prepare the Magic Jar, the Otto's Irresistible Dance, and the Soul Cage. But what we're going to be doing now is we're going to take the Enchanter to level 14. We get another subclass ability here. I don't think it's as mechanically gangbusters as Hypnotic Gaze or Split Enchantment. But I do think it is certainly thematically appropriate for enchanters, and it's not a bad ability. Alter Memories, at 14th level, you gain the ability to make a creature unaware of your magical influence on it. When you cast an enchantment spell to charm one or more creatures, you can alter one creature's understanding so that it remains unaware of being charmed. Because normally when you are facing a charm effect, once the charm ends, you become hostile. This is certainly going to be the case with our charm monster spell. Additionally, once before the spell expires, you can use your action to make the chosen creature forget some of the time it's been charmed. The creature must succeed on an intelligence saving throw against your wizard spell DC. It's going to be hard for most creatures, or lose a number of hours of its memory equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. And we have boosted our charisma to a 14 with this character, so that's 3 hours. You can make the creature forget less time, and the amount of time can exceed the duration of your enchantment spell. So we can potentially cast Charm Monster on a creature, have it do a bunch of things, have it forget those things, and then have the spell end, and it's not even hostile to us. Really kind of useful thematically for this kind of character, even though as a combat ability it really doesn't do much for us. But I really do like the way the enchantment just has fun stuff. Again, I think most enchanters work best if they're a little bit sinister. And if you are a little bit sinister, just the abilities, the spells, they all work together and to make this really interesting kind of character. And it's going to play a lot differently than other wizards do, even though you do some of the same things. So at 13th and 14th level, we're going to be selecting our 7th level spells, so 2 at each level. Now the first level, the first one I'm going to take is Simulacrum, so that I can have my duplicate, and remember my duplicate has advantage of those subclass abilities as well. And then the second spell I'm going to take at 13th level is Force Cage, for obvious reasons. Then at 14th level, I'm going to add Crown of Stars and Teleport. Now remember, Crown of Stars is another thing I can be doing with my bonus action, because you cast Crown of Stars and then you can use your bonus action to do damage with them each round. So we have lots of things we're doing with our action, and it doesn't interfere with our concentration. So we might do something like a Twinned Hold Monster with our concentration. We might use Crown of Stars for our bonus action, and then we might use our action on following rounds to do something like a Hypnotic Gaze. Just mixing all kinds of different things. Really a lot this character can do at the same time. Now I am going to need to free up a preparation slot here, and I'm going to free up Autoluke's Resilient Sphere. I probably have this already set up with a contingency spell, so it's not like I'm never using Autoluke's Resilient Sphere, but I'm really only using it defensively if I'm in trouble, which is what the contingency is going to be set up for. And then what that'll do is with my 7th level spells, I can set up Crown of Stars, Force Cage, and Teleport. Now Teleport is not something I'm normally going to be casting, but it's something I might cast in an emergency. Force Cage is a really big gun spell because it doesn't use concentration and it shuts down an enemy. They can even be pretty big, and it shuts down their ability to teleport as well. And then Crown of Stars is just, if I have no opportunity to use Force Cage really effectively and I don't need to use a teleport, this would be my third choice of those 3, but it gives me something I can do with my bonus action. That isn't going to use my concentration, and it was just going to complement the other things I can do. Now, as an enchanter, we're not going to get any more subclass abilities from levels 15 through 20, but that doesn't mean the subclass abilities we already have aren't going to affect our levels moving up from here, and you'll see right now. So we're going to go to level 16 with this character, and we're going to get an ability score improvement. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Lucky because, number one, I've never worked out advantage on concentration saves with this character. I mean, we're proficient in constitution saving throws, so I'd imagine we'd make most of our concentration saves. But Lucky is going to shore that up for us, as well as potentially turn enemy attacks into disadvantage if we want. So we can use this on other saving throws that maybe we fail, so that we can get another chance. In a lot of ways, this can boost our defenses, and it's more versatile than other things that increase our defenses, like say Warcaster. Now it's limited to 3 times per day, but we have a lot of other defenses as well, so just adding those 3 additional chances every day is a pretty significant improvement to our defense, which again, it's kind of a struggle with this character. Of all the things with this character, it's the one area where there's a little bit of an Achilles heel, and we've covered that to a certain degree with taking certain spells, like Autoluke's Resilient Sphere, like Shield, like mage armor like Mirror Image, but now we're improving it with our feats as well. And at our 19th level, we'll also be thinking about defense. But enough about defense, let's talk about offense. Because we still want to take advantage of our split enchantment, and there's two good choices at this level. I think you should take one of them and potentially both of them. The first one is Feeble Mind. Now, Feeble Mind is generally something you want to cast on something that needs to use its intelligence, so maybe a spellcaster, for example. And what it does is it's a 150-foot range. It's going to require an intelligence saving throw DC 18. Very difficult save to make. Even most spellcasters in the monster manual don't have great intelligence saves. You blast the mind of a creature you can see within range, attempting to shatter its intellect and personality. The target takes 46 psychic damage and must make an intelligence saving throw. The 46 psychic damage, of course, is terrible damage for the level and not the reason we're doing this. On a failed save, the creature's intelligence and charisma scores become 1, and the creature can't cast spells, activate magic items, understand language, or communicate in any intelligible way. So this absolutely defeats spellcasters or anyone else who's relying on magic items or needs to be communicating with other creatures. The creature can, however, identify its friends, follow them, and even protect them. So if you're doing it against a big, stupid Gronk, it does nothing. It really has to be used on a certain kind of enemy. And then the enemy gets to make their saving throw again in 30 days, and this does not require your concentration. So it's very circumstantial, and that's part of the reason I don't like this spell, but I can now target 2 creatures with it. So now I like it a lot more. But I want another spell that I can also duplicate that isn't going to be circumstantial, and that's where I'm going to take Dominate Monster. Again, Dominate Monster, not normally something I'm going to be taking, but with Twin Dominate Monster, now I like it. I can control 2 different enemies with it. And then I'm going to take 2 additional spells at the following level, and I would probably take Mind Blank for some defensive capability, and the next one maybe doesn't matter that much, but I'll take Maze. It's a nice way to defeat an enemy without providing them a saving throw. In terms of preparation, we're now at a significantly higher level, and I'm thinking that spells like Slow aren't doing much for me anymore. I still might use Sleet Storm once in a while as a battlefield control. And then when I look at my 6th level spells, I might not have Magic Jar prepared. It might be something I still might use, but it's probably something I would pre-plan. As for my 8th level spells, I'm just going to prepare them all. I have room to prepare them all. I obviously can only cast one of them a day, but then I can choose which one is appropriate. Feeble Mind is something I'm probably not going to know ahead of time that I'm going to need, but when I do need it, it's the perfect spell. Dominate Monster is far more generalized than Feeble Mind, but not as good as Feeble Mind in the specific circumstance where Feeble Mind is good, like you're facing 2 powerful spellcasters. But if we are fighting creatures with legendary resistance, they're going to make their saving throw. So then we hit them with a maze, and then they don't get a saving throw. Or if we expect to be targeted with divination or charm, we can use Mind Blank and prevent that from working on us. So yes, I can only cast one of these spells a day, but I'm going to want to cast them in different situations that I don't necessarily know are going to happen ahead of time. So now I have that choice, and with my biggest, most powerful spell, I can choose the best effect at the time I know I need it. So we're getting near the end. Let's look at level 18 and 17. So obviously the big thing happening here is we're going to be getting our 9th level spells, but before we do that, let's talk about our spell mastery. It's going to give us the ability to cast a 1st and 2nd level spell without expending a spell slot. Now, I gotta say that Misty Step is going to be a pretty useful thing for me to be able to do at will, but as a 1st level spell, I would normally take Shield. In this case, I think Tasha's Hideous Laughter might be the option, because remember, we can still twin it. It still incapacitates 2 enemies who fail their saving throw, so it is a pretty good spell, and just being able to do it unlimited is pretty good, and we have enough 1st level slots. We have Instinctive Charm that's often going to replace a shield spell, so I don't think we need the slots for shield. Tasha's Hideous Laughter just gives us unlimited offense. So then we're going to get 4 9th level spells. And again, we're not necessarily going to be preparing all these spells. We're certainly only casting one of them a day. But I like to have Wish on my spellbook even if I'm not preparing it, because it's something you can be using when you're not adventuring. That's also true of True Polymorph. So these are kind of spells that I tend to take regardless. They're good to have prepared. You can use them in combat absolutely effectively, and you can use them in adventuring absolutely effectively. But you might get tired of having them on you all the time because you just don't get to do anything else. And 9th level spells aren't something you get to use very often. So I like to have another couple spells as well. Foresight, I think, is a really good choice. Just a really strong buff. And I think on ourselves, it could be really helpful. It helps our defense as well, remember. And the other one I'm going to do, Power Word Kill. Now, Power Word Kill is a spell I don't like, but I can twin it. And if I know that the creatures are going to have 100 hit points or less, and I can affect 2 creatures and automatically kill them without a saving throw, add double the effect, it's okay. It's still pretty good. Now, I'm not going to prepare this by itself. I would never go into combat with only Power Word Kill as my 9th level spell, but what I think I'll do is I'll prepare it, and then in the circumstance where it will be useful, it's there for me. And then I think I'll prepare Foresight as the other 9th level spell, and then that way I have just a really strong 9th level spell and a circumstantial 9th level spell. And True Polymorph and Wish, I might cycle those in. Both of them are great spells. If I ever found I went a few adventures, Power Word Kill just wasn't doing it for me, then I'll switch it out for Wish, no problem. So we're going to do the final jump from 18 to 20. And I should say that right from 17th level or after 17th level, there's perfectly good reason why you might want a multi-class. If we wanted to go into, say, Sorcerer, for example, we qualify for Sorcerer because we have a high enough charisma, so we could go in and by level 20 we could get some meta magic. We won't have a lot of sorcery points, so though that meta magic's going to be kind of hard for us to use, especially with our high level spells, but it would be an option. Or we could go into a different class. I'm just going to go straight wizard here, just because I've gone wizard this far. Let's just follow it right through to the end. Now we're going to get an ability score improvement, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take tough. So the tough feat is going to give me additional 2 hit points per level, so that's 40 additional hit points for this character. Then I'm going to get signature spells. So what signature spells is going to do is it gives me 2 3rd level wizard spells that are in my book, and they remain prepared for free, and I can cast them once a day without expending a spell slot. So what spells am I going to maybe want to cast once a day without expending a spell slot? Well, counterspell's likely to come up, so I'll probably have counterspell. Now, if we use signature spells to cast counterspell, it's automatically cast at our 3rd level, which means there's an ability check involved if we're counterspelling a higher level spell. But doing that once per day for free is no problem. Remember, if it's prepared, we can still cast it with our higher level slots. We just have to use our slots. And then the second one I'll take is slow. I don't see that coming up a lot, but 3rd level spells aren't going to be coming up a lot at this point, and it's okay, so I'll throw slow in there as well. Now we get 4 additional spell selections, and honestly, I wouldn't select 4 more 9th level spells because we already have 4 spells. We can only cast 1 a day. True Polymorph and Wish are the ones we'd probably be casting outside of adventuring, and we already have them. Power Word Kill and Foresight give us plenty to do on days where we're not preparing Wish or True Polymorph for adventuring. So what are we going to do with our additional 4 spell slots? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to level 6, and I'm going to take Mass Suggestion. It's something I just didn't get a chance to take before. Very good spell, very appropriate for this character. Yet another spell that isn't affected if creatures are immune to being charmed, so it's not always ideal, but at this level I have so many different spells, and a lot of them don't worry about charm. So as long as I have some idea that the enemy is immune to charm, I'm not too concerned about it. And then what I'm going to do with my additional 3 slots is I'm going to take some rituals. So take whatever rituals you like best with your character. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to 5th level. I'm going to grab Contact Other Plane. Not a spell I'm going to cast very often, but it's there if I need it. And then I'm going to go back to 3rd level, and I'm going to take Water Breathing. Again, I don't know how much it's going to come up at this point, but it doesn't hurt to have it on my list. And then I'm going to take Phantom Steed. So that gives me my 4 spells. None of them are going to be a huge boost to this character. This character kind of hit its peak at level 18. Level 19 and 20, we're just riding that wave. Now I'm going to get 2 additional preparations, so I'm going to go back to 5th level and put Synaptic Static back in, just because, again, it's a debuff that's not using my concentration, and it's going to do a little blast as well, and it affects intelligence saves, which is good. And then I'm going to go to 6th level and get my Mass Suggestion prepared. And that's it. This character is now a 20th level character, 20th level wizard, of course. We have access to Wish and other 9th level wizard spells, the best spells in the game. But this character did end up with a different spell selection list than we'll see with any of the other wizards. You will not see Otto's Irresistible Dance. You will not see Hold Monster. You will not see Charm Monster on any of my other wizard builds. Those are spells that the Enchanter takes because when we get split enchantment, it really boosts the powers of those spells in particular. So that is the Beguiler. Next week, we're going to blow stuff up with our Elementalist build. It's going to be the only blaster build I do with this entire Wizard series because I do think the Evoker is the ultimate blaster if you want to play that kind of character. So until then, I'm going to sit back and relax and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, Optimancers. See you next week.